Welcome to Awaken Human, where we rebirth sovereignty into your true self, bridging together mind, body, and spirit as we experience Earth as a soul in the human body, sharing channeled messages from ascended masters and our awakening journeys, including my own. I'm your host, Maeve. Let the journey continue. Hello, beautiful awakened humans. I am so excited to be sharing this episode today. It's going to be a channeled message from the Ascended Masters talking about shadow work, this word that we're calling of doing the work, putting in the work. And really, there's this piece by calling this work that we don't really realize that we're creating a certain vibration when we call this work. And this message, it feels really important for us to touch on how intentional we need to be about realizing the depths of what this actually is so that we don't create further separation amongst ourselves, so that we stop ourselves from judgment and we really understand the aspect of harmonizing that is happening from this by restoring the blockages within our DNA that are preventing us from living in alignment with our soul and our divine blueprint. That's the purpose of alchemizing the shadow, restoring it, releasing these energetics held within our field that don't allow us to experience our divinity in this physical, which all has its beautiful purpose for right now as we are evolving our consciousness and allowing for these higher dimensional aspects of ourselves to come back online. The other piece of this that they touch on is the victim consciousness that has occurred from the Atlanteans and Lemurian timeline and how this evolved throughout our galactic history of Earth and the power structures that we see. And then I share a little bit about at the end of my own experience recently with clearing this timeline for myself and just this beautiful freedom that I've been able to be in. And of course, the masters also just always want to remind us that they went through this process too. And they had to alchemize the shadows. They had to go into the depths of their human emotions so that they could also be able to have their higher dimensional DNA. And they did it through many different forms. And depending on whatever area they were in, they went through the initiations that were in that culture or in that organization, like the Essenes, or whether they were monks or monasteries or um, in the Buddha lineage. There were so many different aspects or angles of this that were occurring in Egypt, that whole timeline, that history with Isis and those dynasties. So understand that they had to go through these physical experiences of emotions as well. They didn't come. They mentioned this. They didn't walk out of the womb enlightened, as we may have been told. So, um, in this one, I actually do show how I set up calling in the guides with creating a field through an etheric stargate. I invite you that as you listen to this one, there's an opportunity to I invite you as you listen to this one when I call in the certain energies, that you can also do this because you have free will. These energies do not respond to you unless you call them in or have a level of openness to it. So if you feel called, you can also call these energies along with me, and there might be a deeper level of transmission that can occur for you. So, yeah, I invite you to close your eyes, go inside, being comfortable in your space, and allow yourself to receive whatever's in your highest good. All right, here we go. Calling in the energy of Gaia to come up in to your energy field, all around you, supporting and grounding you, anchoring you in to this vessel through this sacred connection. Calling in an etheric stargate. And for any of you who do not know what this looks like, you may ask for a pyramid like structure to form around you, activating the etheric stargate and all physical and etheric stargates around the world. Activating the stargate up out of the third dimension, vibrating all the way up to the seventh dimensional frequencies, where it pauses for a moment to calibrate the energetics within your energy field and the space around you. Activating the stargate up faster and faster, all the way into the 12th dimension, where we come to a pause, allowing the energetics to calibrate into this 12th dimensional field. The call for the presence of the angels and archangels to support this energetic field that's being created around us. Come closer so that we may feel your presence. Calling in the Ascended Masters, connecting into the Ascended Master realm, in order that they may share their wisdom with us. For what is in our highest good to understand at this time. Beloved ones, for today we will share our wisdom with you through the collective of the Ascended Master field or realm, whichever you prefer. But we will share that this is like a library of some sorts that you might be able to attend, but more of an energetic library, a temple of sorts that when you move into this holographic experience, you may understand the unlockings of the states of consciousness that we were able to experience on your earth plane. This realm is here to support you in your journey to unlock the ancient wisdom that is available to all of you as you move throughout this human experience. One of the pieces that we would like to touch on for today is this phenomenon of what is being called the so called shadow work at this time. This word is picking up steam as a trend of something to acquire or something to do when you derive this aspect of the human experience to the nature of work. This word work creates a lot of different connotations that can create many distortions for you. We would encourage you to let go of this word work, for there are many depths of layers to this word. One, it is creating a sort of separation amongst those that are not doing the so called work and those that are. This gives some a sense of entitlement, so to speak, because they are doing the work for those separate from those who are not. It makes some feel more special and creates the separation from the oneness that is actually occurring from those who are seemingly doing this so called shadow work, and for those that are not. It creates a judgment that those who are not doing what you deem on that path are not evolving their consciousness. For you do not know one's soul path and why they are experiencing their journey in the way that they are. This duality serves a purpose for your current time space. So do not go into judgment for those who are not yet remembering their truth. They may have had many journeys here on earth that they are working through or choosing an opposing experience to one that they've had before. to gain a different perspective. But just because it's not done in the ways that are escalating what some of you are here to bring in through this human evolution of consciousness, does not mean that they are not evolving in the way that their soul is destined to evolve in this life. So it is important when you are using this word to be very mindful of the intentionality that you have behind it, because the word work also implies a connotation that most of you, or the collective, tends to associate with a job. In the ways that jobs have been held, there's somewhat of an aspect of slavery that prevents you from tapping into your sovereignty. So we will say that it is important to understand there's a heaviness within the history of this word work that can create an opposition to what the shadow, addressing the shadow, can really do for you in setting yourself free to the restoration of your divinity within your beingness. That is really the intentionality of addressing these so-called shadows. They are the lower density vibrations within your cells that block the access to the higher DNA, your true divinity or your true nature. So we will say that really this is a matter of restoration of your divine blueprint that is within and being blocked by these shadows. So there is a need to be intentional about the words that you use, because they also hold a certain vibration with the intentionality that you carry around it. Be careful of these subtle judgments that might be passed to one another. Understand that alchemizing the shadow has a deep history, more than what is shared with you within your schools, about the nature of Earth and her evolution. Gaia's history is much more, which most of you are coming to understand, than the so-called narrative that has been shaped within your history books. These narratives are created in order to keep you from understanding the divine blueprint that's within. They are there as a means of control. The shadow aspect is here in order to alchemize and bring back into harmony the original intention and blueprint for Gaia. Gaia wanted to create a physical experience when she incarnated into this planet from Source. It was an experiment to explore having a physical vessel and accessing the varieties of consciousness. For on other planets, when you are in a higher state of consciousness, there's not these vibrations of what you might call lower emotions, these unpleasant emotions that can be experienced in very painful ways. When she originally incarnated, there was a vast degree of consciousnesses that you could have when you are here on this planet. And when the different beings came to experience this, some of them stayed within the higher states, and some felt a sense of power when they tapped into the lower vibrations, such as greed or jealousy. It made them feel empowered in certain ways that made them then believe that they might be able to be Source themselves. Some of you might call this the path of service to self. But some of the other beings stayed in these higher vibrations, but ultimately it lowered the vibration that was held on Gaia from the original blueprint that she was designed in. And when this occurred, that reset the DNA for the humans. Some of you may know this as the time from Lemuria and the fall of Atlantis. However, while those times created the ripple effect that we now see from the victim and power consciousness on the planet, when the Atlanteans chose, or some of those Atlanteans chose to start tapping into trying to create themselves as Source, it trickled into the power and victim consciousness that we now see occurring, and it is time to release this. It is time to restore back to the original blueprint of what was intended to be held here. It is time to let go of the grief and pain and suffering on each side or any ripple effects that occurred from this time. You might say that this is what we are moving through to allow the human consciousness to evolve back to the original state, as you might see within these power dynamics that are occurring now are quite similar to the time of the Lemurian and Atlantis. But we have learned, we have grown, we have evolved, and it is now time to let go and bring back the divine feminine and masculine that each of these civilizations embodied, and bring into harmony the balance within each one of us so that we may rise together in oneness rather than the separation that has been occurring. Understand that the element of shadow work is really about this restoring back the original blueprint that has gotten off track from these ancient times. Also, understand that as masters, we did not walk out of the womb enlightened. We too went through this process as you are now collectively able to do. There are thousands of us that have shifted into an enlightened state and also alchemized and restored the wholeness and balance back to our own beingness to see our own divinity. We went into the depths of these emotions too. This is why we continue to urge not to worship, but to learn from us. So not only did we go through the depths of the emotions, but we too received initiations and activations within our temples, such as the temples of Isis, the monasteries, these sacred sites from gurus and other masters. We too went through this process. We are your brothers and sisters, friends, allies, your team to support you. Because we understand and have so much compassion and depth of understanding of the densities that you are moving through. And it's an honor for us to support you from this other side. Call upon us to be with you. Because this is much bigger of an effort, a collective intention, not only from the physical, but the unseen support. You all are so supported, even though it may not feel like it at times. Do know you are not alone, and we understand the difficulties, the challenges, and we love you through it all. Okay, I hope that was a helpful message for you. I feel that this is a really important piece for us to all understand right now because I'm seeing this division that's unintentionally getting created in the spiritual community by calling this shadow work. It's creating this piece where we feel more important or creating more of a separation for people who aren't doing this right now. And it's really important to understand that we have no idea why a soul is on the path that they are. There's so much depth to this that's happening that historically we don't know, and also what opportunity it's bringing for somebody who is on this path to understand about themselves within the contrast of the duality. And so I'd really invite you, I should have asked what word. I really like this restoration piece because really that's what this is about. By going into the densities within us, these aspects of consciousness, we are bringing into restoration and activating this higher dimensional DNA that's within. And some people are working on just one shadow that they're trying to restore and harmonize. And it may not appear that way, but we've got to trust that the universe is giving them exactly what they need, and their higher self is operating in something for them that is serving all of us. And it may not feel that way at times. And I think the part of us that wants it to just be back into harmony feels that impatience and then creates the judgment and then that separation. So, just something I invite you to contemplate in how this shows up, how it appears. And as far as the Atlantean and Lemurian timeline, there was, for me, I was having a deep anger towards Atlanteans whenever I would think about them. And for me, I could truly connect with the Lemurian energy. I've tuned in, tapped in, and never, when I ask, I didn't have any lives in Atlantis, but I was, from what I've connected, in collaboration with them. And I, anytime that Atlantis was discussed, I would have this deep anger, this just this whole body response. And recently in the Stargate, they did a series in the Azores of bridging together the Lemurian and Atlantis timelines. and we're bridging together those civilizations. And Vivian Chauvet, she is an Arcturian hybrid that is incarnated here, and she just has such a beautiful presence, but she has all of her memories online. And the Atlanteans and Arcturians were heavily involved together. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because there was a lot of technology, and I associate the Arcturians with this really powerful technology. And when we did this meditation series in the Azores, we cleared these timelines back to the original blueprint and let go of these feelings that we were carrying from these times. And for me, I was seeing how when the Atlanteans started tapping into this dark matter, this technology, I carried so much anger because I loved Gaia so much. And I loved my Lemurian life. I loved it. And when that happened, we were resetting Earth. And that's when Telos was created. The Lemurian family split. And some of us went into Telos. And I was so sad that my family had to be separated. And that created this anger. And for me, this took me into victim consciousness. By that moment, I was seeing how that impacted all these other lives. So there was many aspects that were happening from this Atlantean times, like people that went and tried to go into these power states that needed to be alchemized, the Atlanteans that weren't involved feeling all the grief and sadness as well and anger. So there was so much that occurred historically on Earth from this time. And then we see this kind of interaction play out. And so it's really important. You don't need to consciously always have to go back into that. But if it comes up for you and that's something that is hitting you, it's time to let that go. These meditations, while I'm not promoting Stargate, they were absolutely beautiful. It's a great tool to go in and tap into if you feel called. I will put the link in my show notes for this particular series if you feel like you want to check it out. For me, it was very impactful. I feel so much more free. I am able to see the Atlanteans as my brothers and sisters who remembered, who have learned, who it's time to let go of it. It's not serving any of us to carry on or hold these feelings. So for me, it's been a really freeing experience. This was 2 weekends ago that they did this series from today. And there's just a lot of power that we can tap into by letting go of this victim consciousness or this fear of this manipulation or being in a manipulation state, and but also honoring and not judging what somebody may be working through if they're still in this. We're all trying to alchemize and free ourselves in some way or form. So it's time for us to just really notice and be intentional. See where these spaces can be purified within so that we can fully step into our balance of the divine feminine and masculine and harmonize what is our natural state of being? What's our birthright, our truth, and the purity that is all of us? So, until next time, I love you, sending you so much love and light, and any love that you may need during this time as you also go through your own evolution. Thank you for tuning in to Awaken Human. I hope this empowered you on your spiritual awakening and knowing thyself. The key to awakening lies within each of us, and by embracing our authentic selves, we create a brighter, more compassionate world. If you like this episode, share your story and tag me. Don't forget to subscribe for future episodes and leave a review or comment. Until next time, may you continue to awaken to the infinite possibilities within.